DC Multiverse!
Good day everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to review for you the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Arkham City wave of action figures. Collecting all 4 figures in this wave will give you all the pieces to put together the collect-to-build Solomon Grundy. Batman comes with the legs, Catwoman comes with the torso, Rochelle Ghoul comes with both of the arms, and Penguin comes with the head and the jacket. Now this is a wave of figures that, first of all, if you're a fan of the game, of course you're going to be excited to get because, I mean, who doesn't want to get more figures based on a video game that they love? And in my opinion, Arkham City is still the best of all the Arkham games. And if you're not a fan of the game franchise, well, it's still cool to get a Catwoman, a Rochelle Ghoul, and a Penguin figure that can very easily be subbed in for the comic book versions. These are fantastic depictions of these characters. Anywho, let's look at them all individually, starting with the titular character of the series, Batman. And right off the bat, I'm going to compare him to the previous one, and you'll note that there are some pretty big differences. The gray for each figure is actually a little bit different, with the Arkham City being a little bit lighter. The bat on this Batman's chest is so much bigger. I really like this one. Though the utility belts for both of the Batman figures are exactly the same, which technically means that Arkham City isn't accurate. The previous one was painted gold with a black wash over top to emphasize the details, while the current one is painted a muted yellow color. They both got different gauntlets that are each of them unique to the game that they are based off of, so that's nice that the gauntlets were resculpted. Along with the cape, the capes for both of these are very different. However, the boots are exactly the same, which means also that the boots on this figure are not accurate to the source material either. The face sculpts at first might look like they're the same, but they're actually not. There have been modifications that have been made to the Arkham City in comparison to the previous Arkham Asylum, and as a nice touch, I actually prefer the fact that the lenses in this suit have been painted white, rather than being able to see the eyes through the cowl. Seeing the eyes through the cowl in the gameplay was something I never really liked, so this is something that I'm completely okay with. One more difference between this figure and the previous Arkham Asylum is that the Arkham Asylum figure has like a silver wash over top of the black, while this figure has nothing of the sort over top of the boots or the gauntlets. Batman's cape kind of swooshes off to the side as well in comparison to the other one, and this is a nice kind of soft rubber. I don't know if I will go as far as customizing this Batman figure. Maybe if I get a second one I will, but that's okay. And overall, I really like this. This could be your stand-in Batman for your comic book version, because this is just as comic book accurate as I think most of us would want, right? No? I mean, if you're a sucker for the old comic book style, the gauntlets are definitely a little bit busy, but McFarlane did do a good job of turning the actual game into a 3D sculpted action figure. I think if I was going to make this my comic book go-to Batman, I would definitely replace the boots though. This Batman also comes with an unfired bat grapnel. And of course, he's going to be just as articulated or not as articulated as the previous Batman, who shared much of the same sculpted detail. Know that the cape over the shoulders here, if you want that over the shoulder look, the cape is definitely going to get a lot in the way of that, but that's kind of what we're expecting. He's also got the elbows, these are elbows right here, everybody. He's got the biceps that are going to be that 360 swivel. One thing that I wish that Todd had have done different with this figure, articulation-wise, is given him the double-jointed elbows. Instead, as you can see, he's got the same single-jointed ones. And if these at least did 90 degrees, I'd be a lot more at peace with them, but I don't like that. It is kind of nice that you actually can't really see the wrist articulation, the rounded hinge. We know what they're going to do. We've got the groin down here. We know what that gets. Those of us who own the previous one know that it gets a good amount of articulation in the upper legs. Very little in the way of this. He has double jointed knees that are very crunchy, and he's got the rounded hinge. I mean, we know what this is going to be. Par for the course style McFarlane articulation from the waist down. Overall, a very cool figure. Super stoked to have him. On to the next figure, which is Catwoman. And this is a figure that I am really excited about because the Catwoman that I've been using is actually the one from the Batman movie with a head swap. Catwoman was a character that I was really hoping that Todd would decide to produce, and he has here with this one. I could sub her in as a comic book version or keep her as a game version. I mean, that is a beautiful head sculpt. I really like this, and the paint, as far as I can tell, looks really, really well done. This is fantastic. It looks a lot like the actual video game art, and I just really, really like this. If you're a customizer and you were just a little bit finicky and you wanted to use this as your comic book Catwoman, you probably could paint around the lenses, the frames, maybe a silver color just to make her a little bit more comic booky though. And all the details on her cat suit are game accurate as far as I can remember. I really like that. You got the buckles, you got the zipper, you got the open cleavage popping out the front there. You got her, whoa, that is a badonkadonk. Catwoman has got a badonkadonk. If you're someone who's a customizer, you may want to paint some of the details just to make them a little bit more game accurate. You know, like the buckles on the side of her uniform here or what have you, but this is just a fantastic Catwoman. And she comes with a whip, of course. Sassy. Look at how big the handle is for this thing. It looks like a lightsaber. And as for how articulated Catwoman is, let's find out together. The head is pretty good. Does the collar get in the way? Well, definitely going back. Don't expect her to be able to look back with beans, but everything else I think it's okay. Of course, we have the articulation we're expecting with the rounded hinged bicep swivel and the double jointed elbow that crunches up nicely with the rounded hinge in the wrist, which is hidden nicely by the sleeve of her uniform here. We have torso articulation that is really mobile. Same with the waist, so you get a really rad, excellent range of motion with this character. Then you have her little, some people call her diaper, that goes right up inside here. So this is actually really nice. You've got down here the typical range I think you would get. Yep. So it gets a full round and round range all over the place. Does she have, ooh, she's got like nothing there, but of course double jointed knees. We know they're going to crunch up nicely, and a sculpted rounded hinge for the ankle. And she's got toe articulation and a pivot for those high heel boots. And next, why don't we look at Rochelle Ghoul? It's funny, sometimes I pronounce it Rochelle Ghoul, sometimes it's Rochelle Ghoul, sometimes it's Rochelle Ghoul. I've actually heard it pronounced different ways.
Linguists say one thing, writers say another, and fans have been caught in the crossfire.
Rochelle Ghoul.
Rochelle Ghoul. Rochelle Ghoul.
Rochelle Ghoul.
Rochelle Ghoul.
Am I pronouncing this right? Mr. Raz Al Ghul?
Raish, not Raz. A common mistake.
So, which is it?
This figure looks very much like his video game counterpart, with the big boots, the baggy pants, and the belt area with the wolf face, and just so much detail all on this suit. And he's got these really cool tattoos that are really well done on both arms. These dragon tattoos are really well done. I like these so much. His face sculpt looks very much like the source material, so he gets points for that. And then B, I think mine was actually done fairly well. There's not a whole lot in the way of that isn't painted right that I could really point out here. I will say that the paint could be a little bit neater here where it meets up with these fantastically sculpted gauntlets. But this belt area, that's been done nicely. All the gold paint actually seems like it's not gone sloppy anywhere for the most part. It seems like it's pretty much where it's supposed to be. And overall, if we were never given another figure of this character in the entire Multiverse line, I would probably be okay with this one. His torso is actually largely rubber down here, so you can feel it's harder up here, but then down here, it's actually hollow, and that's probably to help with the articulation. Why don't we look at that now while we're here talking about it? The head? Yeah, that's all right. It's pretty good. And then he's got the shoulder pauldrons, and they're so tight to the arm that don't expect more than that. That's actually, well, I guess that's almost par for the course. It does a T-pose, and just don't expect it to go around very efficiently before it starts to bump into the pauldrons there. He does have the rounded hinge. I can't see any kind of a socket in there for this guy. And then you've got your bicep swivel, your double jointed elbows, your rounded hinge in the wrist, which is hidden fairly nicely, actually, by these gauntlets. You've got torso articulation in there, I'm sure, but it's going to be very much negligent based on the fact that this rubber piece isn't going to want to bend. So you're looking at really the waist being the only real bodily articulation piece. Down here, he's got what we'd expect him to have. How much? Ooh, that's actually really good. Yeah, that's really nice. I like that. Does he have any? Not really. Nothing, and nothing to speak of. And you'd figure that because how big the pants are right here. This is a double jointed knee, which is cool, but when opened up, it's definitely kind of sort of a lot of ugly. That just looks not so cool. But I suppose, you know, like, how do you do great big baggy pants and not have that kind of articulation issue when it comes to the sculpt once you bend those double jointed knees? I don't know. I'm not an action figure designer. It's ugly, but I don't know if it's avoidable, so I'm not going to take points off for it. And then, of course, we have these, and they do this, and they do that. He also comes with his fantastic sword. I like this accessory a lot, and it's got an inscription that reads in English as follows. A very cool figure indeed. Now let's take a look at Gotham's infamous Iceberg lounge owning Penguin. This is a bit of a different take on the Penguin compared to any other that we've seen. This Penguin has like a voice thing in his throat and what looks like a smashed off bottom of a pop bottle where his eye monocle would be. With this figure, they really went all out with the detail in the sculpt. Like his cardigan right here is just loaded with the details that are the same as in the game. You've got like the leaves, the fleurs, and then up here you've got the fluffy collar of his jacket. And the jacket, I love the fact that his jacket has this texture to it. I'm a big texture hound and I love that. This looks really, really great. A texture can give all the life in the world to a figure and just make it look that much better. Fluffy sleeves down here, accurate to the game. We've got his big old pants and his big old belly and his shoes with the white things on the top, which is something I love to see. And then, of course, we have that fantastic looking head sculpt with a top hat on top. And I really, really like this. This looks good enough for me to say I know exactly what I'm looking at. This looks like the game. Of course, Penguin comes with his brolly. It's black, it's gold, it's pretty simple. It's closed, not open, of course. I don't recall the penguin head on the top actually being gold. However, I think that it actually works like this as an accessory better than if it was actually painted the correct colors from the game. My question at this point, honestly, is how articulated is this penguin figure? Because, you know, figures that have big trench coats tend to have a lot less articulation. I don't really care. I would never want to put this guy in dynamic poses, but the head is actually really well articulated, except for back, which, I mean, come on, if we want the big furry collar here and the top hat, we're going to sacrifice that articulation. That totally makes sense. Rounded hinges, of course. Arms go up to a T, which is good enough. He won't be doing the YMCA anytime soon, but that's enough for me, especially for a figure who's not really supposed to be super acrobatic or a fighter. Double jointed elbows. Crunch up enough that he can be like, hello, how you doing? Wrist articulation hidden in the sleeve, that rounded hinge. Doesn't it look like he's doing the queen wave? Looks like he's doing the queen wave. The torso, I am not even gonna try. Here I am trying. I said I wasn't, but I did. And just to show you, there ain't nothing there. He ain't getting nothing, of course. But he will turn all the way at the waist, so he can be like, I'm turning at the waist. Oh no, my body's on backwards. Ah, I feel so much better. And down here, I mean, he's got the basic McFarlane style articulation, but remember, he is wearing a big coat. If you want the big coat on this figure, you're going to sacrifice the articulation, but really, does the Penguin need that much articulation? I'm going to say probably not. He has different knees in comparison to the rest of the figures in this wave, in that these rotate a full 360, which you know I'm always a fan of, and then they don't quite even go 90 degrees. They're single hingy-doos, and that's really it. And of course, for the Penguin's feet, it's going to be a round joint right up in here, a round hinge, and the pants are definitely going to get in the way. I don't really care. And then you have the toes like this. Honestly, I don't care how great this Penguin's articulation is. Just the basic is fine with me, because remember, this is not supposed to be a super articulated character. And he looks fantastic. And now we move on to the collective build figure of this wave, Solomon Grundy.
Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, christened on Tuesday, married on Wednesday, took ill on Thursday, grew worse on Friday, died on Saturday, buried on a Sunday.
And for as cool as this figure looks, I've definitely got one single qualm with this guy, and you know what it is. You know what it is. Look at how tall he is in comparison to the rest of the wave. Yeah, not very tall. I tend to feel like if you want to at least make him accurate to what he would look like in that universe, he needed to be at least 2 heads taller. And if you want to make him accurate to the game, then he would have had to have been at least half a size bigger. Maybe even a full 2 Grundys tall. That being said, I mean, he still is a fantastic looking figure. You know, when I compare him to other figures that would be large, it seems kind of weird that he would be shorter than Killer Croc or Bane. I feel like he would, you know, be on par with those guys at least. But anyway, enough complaining about the size, the height of Solomon Grundy. He still is a very cool looking figure, and I'm glad that he is the collectabuild of the wave. I'm going to go right to the facial sculpt with this guy. This is so cool. This looks like the game, and he looks like a zombie, like the living dead brought back to life. And it is painted just fantastically. I love this. This is going to go out with my scary figures that I have as part of my Halloween display. You can see every vein in his face, and his hair is all sticking up around the back like that. This is incredibly well done. I like this so much. Here's the torso. He's rotted, and he's got a nipple. There's the nipple right there. He's got his chest that's been cut open. Now, this is not a piece that comes off. It doesn't open. He's got the stitch marks on his arms right there, and the chains around his wrists. Got the rope around his waist, his tattered suit, and I like this suit a lot. This is fantastic. It just looks so threadbare. I like it. Almost looks like sackcloth, which is something you wouldn't expect a suit to be made of, but it matches what this figure is. I think that this is just really good looking. This is a guy who definitely has never, ever skipped leg day a day in his life, too, because them calves, they're defined. One fist and one open grabby hand for strangling Batman. Oh, did you hear that? He's got clicky arms. Is that clicky, or is that just the plastic rubbing? I don't know. Maybe that's just the plastic rubbing. How articulated is Solomon Grundy? Well, let's find out. The head gets surprisingly little movement. Very, very little. You have nothing in the torso here. Nothing whatsoever. And then you have these big rounded hinges in the arms. Of course, you get the single jointed elbows here. Can we get, that's almost 90 degrees. Almost. Then you have the wrists. What do we get there? Because remember, there's these big chains here. Well, clearly, back and forth, and round. And that's it. And that's going to go the same for both hands. Then, pick it up all the way down here. He's got his groin, and it's, move that big arm out of the way. That's not bad. That well, not a lot up. We're back. I suppose I would give that about a 50% mark. And he does have lots of this, though. So that is fantastic. I'll take that. And then the knee, which is single jointed. What do the knees get? I don't know. What do you think? I think that's okay. Could it be better? Sure. Absolutely. Weird looking points of articulation, though, like that. Where the pants is there. Do these actually... Oh, and these rotate. Technically they're supposed to, but of course he's got the kneecaps that get in the way. I don't know what I would have done. Maybe left the kneecaps there and had it move from below the knee? I'm not entirely sure. And then we have the ankles. And the ankles get quite a bit down. Oh God, it's tight. Up. Like that. Of course they're going to pivot. And you get toe articulation. And now, while I don't have very many more comparisons I want to make, I did want to bring in my Marvel Legends Incredible Hulk and my DC Universe Classic Solomon Grundy to compare to this figure. Here's the Penguin compared to the previous McFarlane Toys Penguin. I tried to paint him and customize him up and failed miserably, but anywho, this is the Colin Farrell version. And just to fill the space on the other side, I brought in my DC Universe Classics to put there. Catwoman here is pictured next to the Arkham Knight version from DC Collectibles, as well as the previous McFarlane Toys with the head swap. And here is the Batman in comparison to some other Arkham Batman figures, both made by McFarlane Toys. And here he is compared to some other Arkham Batman figures made by DC Collectibles. So what do I think about this Arkham City wave of McFarlane action figures? Probably one of my favorite in a while. I like the entire character selection. I like how all the characters were executed, minus the nitpick about Solomon Grundy's height, and it's just a really solid wave. And I think all in all, I would probably give it a 9.5 out of 10. If you're someone who likes the game, or just collects McFarlane figures and you're looking to fill out with your one Penguin and your one Catwoman, and you need a Rochelle Ghoul and a Solomon Grundy, well, this could be the wave for you. I know it certainly was for me. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now. Have yourself a super fantastic, awesome DC day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.